Welcome back to Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, anime review episode number 35. We're reviewing the 38th episode of the series. Now, I initially thought that the last episode technically didn't that book 4. It kind of did partially, but not fully. Because it felt like a journal, and they say adapted 4, but I didn't think it really did. But in the case of this episode, it definitely did adapt the chapters that basically it adapted. This episode adapted from chapters 5 through 7 of the book. Yeah, both episodes called Wedding Reception. So mostly some stuff happens in the course of this episode. So, mostly put, Rudius and Safi are preparing for their wedding reception. Basically, party announced the fact that they're getting married. And pretty much the whole cast. And they decide to go some shopping for some clothes. So then they go to a shop where they try a few different outfits. And then Rudius basically just get a new one, because here's the thing. The outfit he wears in this episode, the cloak, he's worn that since like the second half of season 1. So he's worn that in terms of the anime since episode 12. Yes, 12. And this is episode 38. So officially he has worn that coat he's had that coat for 17 episodes. Here, he gets sort of an updated version of it. And, and he looks at the price tag, he's like, can I really afford this? And he's like, and of course the tailor is asked, now this whole, they do cut a bit out here about the fit stuff, which, fine, they'll move the thing along. It's a minor thing. I don't have an issue with that at all. I mean, and we can tell it's not Fitz anymore. Doesn't mention, of course, he does ask him his name. His name is, you must be related to Luke. Well, give me a discount then. He's basically his patron. But in the book, he says only this time. And, well, he gets a cloak, and they go out grocery shopping, and they go home, have a bath, and of course now, they do cut the bit out here where Rudius explains to her that apparently it's tradition for husband and wife to basically bathe together. A Japanese tradition, mind you, but yeah, they cut that out of the anime for some reason. It's a minor bit of dialogue. They're basically in the bath, they're butt naked. In terms of the anime, okay, did Rudius explain to her this is perfectly natural from a Japanese man point of view? Or for a husband and wife basically to share a bath together? Anybody can assume just by watching this scene that he probably did explain this to her. But it's got the anime. That's another thing. It's really like a bit of a minor issue there. And then after she basically gets close to him, he basically acts weird, picks her up, dries her up, puts towel on her, and basically rushes the bedroom. And they added the line where she says, "Jeez." And what he's doing here? He wants to have sex. Because he's horny. Yes, seriously. That's exactly what he's doing here. Anybody watching this scene can tell, yeah, he's going to have sex with his wife. Okay, moving on. So right afterwards, they have the wedding party, which basically, now, that ending of that scene there, that's the end of chapters 5. Yes. So the first quarter of the episode is taken from chapter 5, and the rest of the episode is in chapters 6 and 7. So basically, here's who they invited to this party: Zenobia, Julia, Baga, the female demon lord's husband, her fiance, the one with 6 arms. Pretty much everybody who's seen the whole season at this point. They did mention that apparently Solid was basically busy, and they mentioned about the vice principal. So, oh yeah, the Beast Girls are here too because they're here because their boss is getting married, because they're respecting him as a boss. Because of course, basically, he tamed these two in the first half of the season during the school arc. Of course, Nisha's here. Of course, it was actually Safi's idea, and she's like, "How exactly do you two do you know exactly where Rudius came from originally?" And the only thing she will say is that he speaks her language. That's it. It's like he is very nervous talking about basically Japan. Well, basically the place where he was previously from because he's a reincarnation. Nanisha is basically was isekai'd. She was transported, and inadvertently, her being transported caused the mass teleportation incident that happened in the first half of season 1. Which, if you go for the books, that came at the end of book. I think it was toward the end of book 2. I think it was. Actually, no. Yeah, happened in book 2, and that's pretty much exactly what happened there. So, and then of course we have the very scene which I'm so happy they kept this in because this was important. They had to keep this in here, and I was hoping, please for the love of God, keep the dialogue intact, and they did. Thank you, Egg Farm, for doing that. So, basically, Safi had mentioned earlier that she was going to ask her a question. Basically, she blatantly asked her if she's basically her grandmother. Not her mother, her grandmother. And she points out, though, that, basically, her father mentioned to her that her grandmother traveled with Paul's party. And that's explaining, of course, she nearly collapses, and of course, Cliff takes her in her room, and, of course, well, in a way, because she says, I don't want to get involved with Rudy because I did not want to be Paul's daughter-in-law. And Rudy points out, though, him marrying Safi and basically his revelation technically makes them relatives. She's related to Paul anyways. Not by being the daughter-in-law, by being the grandmother of basically his daughter-in-law, Safi. And then, of course, Safi basically explains to her. And Cliff basically considers himself basically just bear the hatch to him, just become friends. Yeah, he's basically gotten over Eris. Yeah, that was a brief thing in season 1 where that OVA they did with I'm so happy they adapted this. There was a lot of book 5 they skipped over for no reason. Yes. I'm not sure why the season 1 did that forward. Book 4 was really good. Book 6 is really good too. But book 5, oh my gosh, basically they skipped too much. They skipped the whole freaking chapter. Yes, there's a whole chapter where Rudius meets his aunt. His mom's sister. And they cut out the anime for reasons unknown to me. You could say time. But it's like, yeah, they probably want to adapt this scene because it features a character appears as one scene. And it's not sitting into book 21. Excuse me. I'm not kidding about that. She has not returned for 16 freaking books. That's not a joke. That's 100% completely true. So, mostly put basically like after the whole thing is settled and everybody leaves, and of course the priest asks basically to use basically the bath. And then, of course, Princess Ariel, Safi's basically with Eloise. Luke and Rudius have a duel, which Rudius wins. And he does ask the obvious question. Why would you do this for? Pride. And also if he's worthy of being trusted with Safi. That's mostly exactly what this duel was. It's very, of course, you see that Luke is very angry. But I think, wait, did they kind of line out where he's basically like vows revenge against them for beating this duel? Not really, no. And of course, they go home. Of course, Rudy explains to staff what happened afterwards. And of course, she has accepted the fact that, Eloise basically her grandmother. And, then they close their doors to their big house. And that's the episode. Next episode is called Afar. Now, the way this book is structured is that we're going to see Rudy's sisters come back. Yes, they will be coming back. There is a mention of Paul being here. Like, what? Now, there's a reference to Paul here. And, by the way, there's also a reference here. Something that happens in book, I believe was book 17, I think it was. Yes, it was right after it happened with Eris. I'm not going to spoil the books per se, but Princess Ariel wants to get back to basically her throne in her country, which she does. There's actually a 3-part story that basically covers that, and there's a follow-up story to book 6. Yes, they do in fact follow up with that too, with Zenobia. Yep. So basically, in a way, you could say that Ariel is planting seeds for a future season. You know, wanting to go back to the country, which that does happen. Does it happen in book 14? No. 15? No. Doesn't happen to book 17? Yes, and it takes 2 books to cover the story. Yes, like 2 or 3 books, which I think it was this one or the Zenobia follow-up that leads into basically the events that lead into the final, like one of the things leads to the final arc of the series. Yes. Oh, by the way, the man god is not here. If you're curious though, is he in book 10? No. No, he's not. The man god himself is surprisingly absent for a good chunk of the rest of the series. Like, right after you saw him in season 1, or at least like briefly, I think you were seen briefly at the start of the season per se. He does not return again to the series, to the final book of the series. You see, the man god is mentioned many times over the course of the books and try to figure out who his disciple is. And if I'm not going to spoil who it is per se, but that basically a revelation lays the groundwork for the final book of the series. And also his very brief return to the series. Because he is absent. I mean, he's there for the first, 6 books per se. 6, 7 books. But, after, you could say, the start of this very season, he's never seen again for the rest of the series. Because the primary reason why he's not here, he's not a factor. He has not played a role in the story. You probably would think, damn, cut him out. No, he is just not here. The man god is not here. Now, you might ask me this. Does the final book reveal who the heck the man god really is? Not really. No, that's never revealed. That's one thing I can't spoil about the final book. They did not reveal who the heck this guy frickin' is. It's like this big plot thread of who the man god is. Like this strange being. Why he does stuff the way he does. And that's never revealed by the end of the final book. Not really, no. So, I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of this season. Now, the whole thing mentioning about Paul here, per se, probably the first time he's been mentioned in this whole season. That whole line is a set of book 12. Yes, actually, it's mostly set up for book 12-ish. Because that's where Rudius reunites with him. And with Roxy. I will spoil that he doesn't hear Roxy when he's with Paul again. But the thing is, Rudy has not seen Roxy in 10 years. Roxy, I'm not going to spoil basically her reaction to him. But we'll get to that when we get to it. And, excuse me. Here's one thing I hope, though, for this half of the season. I really hope that they treat books 10 through 12 really well and they're faithful to the books. I'm not saying make carbon copy of the books. I'm not saying that. Keep all the good stuff in. If you excise some lines, make some scenes go along, fine by me. But keep the important stuff in. And if you don't want to basically include some world building stuff, here's a suggestion, Egg Farm. All the material cut out, that could easily make a good spin-off series. You know, to explain the world of Mushoku Tensei. That might be interesting to do. And maybe you can use also groundwork for future episodes. It's possible. That's what I would do anyways. But, one thing I would definitely adapt for that side stuff, adapt that scene. Do it before her appearance in when they were in that book 21. Yes, and if you're really curious, okay, what book number is it does Rudius reunite with Eris. Book 15. It's not very long now. So, if they do, in fact, do a season 3, that's when basically he reunite with her. She's not in these books at all. Nope, she is absent for 9 straight books. At the book 6, she has now returned to book 15 of the series. And Roxy, it's kind of the same thing with her too. She has not been seen since book 6 at this point in time. Though her return takes less time than of course, well, the Eris does. I would say the longest took for character to reunite with this one character is probably going to be Rudius and Safi. Rudius, prior to the events of books 8 and 9, had not seen Safi since book 1. Yes, not since book 1. But now they're happily married. And of course, basically, well, we're going to see some development with that. Don't worry about that. Okay? But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Now, I'm hoping I didn't spoil too much about the remaining books, though. Yes, I did reveal when some characters will pop up again. I'm not going to spoil the story very much at all, but there is plot. Now, here's the thing. By the time the final book comes out, you wait till we read the final book, they do pretty much wrap up every single plot through the whole series, and plus they do lay the groundwork for the sequel series, Redundant Reincarnation. Yes, they do lay the groundwork for that. They certainly do. And I really hope, after they wrap up these episodes, please, let's have a season 3. Even though, yes, we're only about 2 episodes into Core 2. And overall for this whole season, they've only had 14 episodes, and we're not done yet. Okay? So, that's going to be pretty much that particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do not hit the dislike button. I'm going to do one more video, and I'm going to call it a night. So, in the comment corner. Okay, next video. Bye.